Here's your chance to unload. Dear Rob Thomas. Go for it.
Pleased to be friends. Not anymore.
There's the line.
Welcome to the No Guilt Fangirls podcast, where liking what you like is never a bad thing. Here's your host and head fangirl in charge, Patty Holiday.
Hey, y'all. Welcome to the No Guilt Fangirls podcast. I'm Patty, your host and head fangirl in charge. And we are back to talk about Veronica Mars. Now, this was one of the first episodes of this podcast. And we promised back then that we were going to come back and talk about a little bit more our feelings and our thoughts after we saw season 4. So when we last left these ladies, we were all eagerly awaiting the announcement. I don't even think that we knew that Hulu was dropping the whole series yet. I mean, we didn't know the date. Maybe we did. But anyway, they dropped the whole seasons 1, 2, and 3 on July 1st. And we were told that season 4 was coming on July 26th. A couple of weeks have passed. And we've all seen it now, and we're ready to kind of unload and unleash and discuss what we saw. There's a lot to unpack here. We are going to talk about Veronica Mars, season 4. Now, real quick intros. Theresa, go ahead and tell us a little bit about you, where we can find you on social media. And I don't know, I guess what your favorite Veronica Mars moment has been so far. It doesn't have to be in season 4, but it is okay if it happened to have been in season 4.
Sure. So I'm Theresa. As you heard on the first podcast, I blog at Insightful Life and on Instagram also at Insightful Life and on Twitter at Gertie the Dino. And I'd say I kind of have two favorite moments, I guess, comprising all of Veronica Mars. One is a specific scene, and it was in season 3 when Veronica inadvertently helps somebody escape from jail. And as a result of that, she then herself gets thrown into the Neptune jail, and they have her father comes to visit her and Cliff, their lawyer. And it's just the back and forth between them is amazing. And then I guess the recurring joke that I just love throughout Veronica Mars is her always asking for a pony, or anytime they have a surprise, is it a pony? And it made me really happy. I know it happened in the books, but you see it in season 4. She does finally, in a way, get her pony.
That's right. She does. It's adorable. All right, Tanya, what about you? Same thing.
Hi, I'm Tanya Lamb, and you can find me at lolalambchops.com, and you can also find me everywhere on social media at lolalambchops. I don't really have a favorite moment. I think it's just because I just love the wit that Veronica has, like her sassy little attitude. And so I don't have a favorite because she's different with every character. And so I just like to see the differences in her attitude problem.
I think my new favorite moment, because I'm always about the newest thing that catches my attention, but my new favorite moment was actually in season 4. And that was when Logan and Leo are having pizza.
Yes, I know. I know where this is going.
Piz, are you there?
And Veronica walks in. Yeah, Piz, are you there? I laughed. I was just like, oh, Logan, that's why I love you.
That was
and yeah, it was funny. That was a good one. They did a good one there. All right. So Hulu and Veronica Mars pulled a fast one on us. I was happily ensconced in my Comic-Con Twitter watching and was paying attention to all of these things when the next thing I know, I see Kristen Bell come say, I didn't get a birthday present from Hulu. Don't you think they should give me a birthday present? And the next thing you know, they have dropped all of season 4, a week early of Veronica Mars. I thought I had a week to still catch up, which, I mean, I've seen them all, but I was going back through them all because I wanted to refresh myself, and I didn't get there. So I don't even hardly remember season 3, which I know is a big negative for season 4 because there was a lot of season 3 peeps in season 4. So that's what happened to me. How did you guys watch this? Did you sit down and binge it in one setting? Did you kind of space it out over time on purpose or just because of schedules? Like when you got that news that it had come early, what were your thoughts?
So I was at work when the news came out, and I actually saw that I had a missed call at one point from Patty, and you and I, we were recording the next day. And so I thought it was just something related to that. And so while I'm still at work, I checked my voicemail and you're like, I know you can't do anything about this now, but you really need need to know Veronica Mars has dropped. So I think later on, I couldn't do it right after work that day. So I watched the first half on that Friday night and then the second half on Saturday after we had finished. And I feel like that was a good way to do it because since it was such a condensed season, so much happened in each episode. And I'm glad I gave myself the break between the first half and the second half just to soak in what I had seen and prepare myself for what was to come, which there is a lot to come.
There was a lot to come.
It dropped, I think, the day before or 2 days before my birthday. And so I was kind of busy and getting ready for a trip and everything. So I didn't have a whole lot of time, but I wanted to start watching it. And I think Patty had given me a heads up about the first episode and was like, I don't know if you'll like it. And so we watched the first episode and I did not like it at all. And so it took a while for me to want to watch the second one. Like I kind of wanted to be like, okay, let me see another one to cleanse this badness out of my mind. But I think I don't know, it was like maybe a few days. And then I started to watch and I didn't binge them all at once, probably like 2 episodes here, 2 episodes there, 2 episodes here. That was my experience.
Well, I went totally overboard. I turned it immediately on. I kicked everybody out of the room and I said, I'm watching Veronica Mars. I think actually Seth, who's my 12-year-old, sat down to start watching it with me and quickly after the first episode, I was like, maybe not, Seth. This one's just not, I can't. And he just started laughing. He was like, all right, Mom. And so he left. So yeah, that answers the question as to how kid-friendly we felt season 4 was.
Very much less so. And even, we kind of discussed it, even the original series was not kid-friendly for most ages, and this just went way beyond. This was the adult Veronica Mars.
It absolutely was. It absolutely was. So yeah, and I did, and I had concern. I was definitely more concerned about how Tania would feel to this than you would, Theresa. I felt like you were going to be okay.
I don't know what that says about me, though.
No. I just meant I could see Tania like flipping tables because this is her hill to die on, and it's a good hill. I'm not, that's not a bad thing. It just there doesn't need to be all this language all over the place. And
it wasn't even the language. It was like the first episode when they had that very sexual scene. I'm like, this is not what people are coming to Veronica Mars for. And one of the things that bothered me about it is because so in the movie they kind of had, Veronica and Logan had their thing in the movie, and it was, there was kind of a sex scene there, but it was very played down. But I think it was played down because she had just had a baby. It wasn't that long after, and she was insecure about her body. And so that's why I think they played it down there. And then come now where she's very secure about her body, she's like, okay, whatever.
Well, and I think part of it too was it seemed like the movie they kept closer in tone to the original series, and I think they did this in the first episode to show that we are going to push the boundaries a little farther. I think they wanted to set that right off the bat, so you knew right away, oh, this is not going to be exactly like what we had seen the first 3 seasons.
Yeah, it definitely felt that way to me. It felt like this was hello guys, this is not your high school Veronica Mars. We're not, not even close. We're full on adult here, which gave me also pause and concerns, like how dirty, how gritty, how messy. It was a bombing, like how much bomb parts and people's blowing up all over the place were we going to see? And that was where I was like, that was where my hesitation was. The personalities were still there. I was still laughing. They still amused me. So all of that was good. But I definitely did have a little bit of intrepidation with that first episode to kind of worry about it. Oh, by the way, guys, I think this goes without saying, but we are going to spoil the crap out of this. So we are going to talk freely as far as what happens, some plot lines, the big that we all felt, and probably all the marshmallows are still feeling that happens in this show. And just giving you that heads up, if you haven't gotten there yet, or you're not ready for that kind of discussion, then there's a whole series on Disney World trips that you might want to go listen to.
And that you probably want to listen to after this too, if you just need a palate cleanser.
A cleanser, that's right. right. If you want to just have light and fun, there's that. May I tempt you with some Disney World? There is that as an option. So just wanted to say you don't have to click off the podcast altogether, but I get it if you're just not ready for those discussions. Okay, not even the first thing. I don't think. I think they gave us a couple of minutes and then they gave us the theme song. What did you guys think about that super big change on the theme song? It's the same song, but totally different version.
I mean,
no, it's the worst.
Yeah, we sang the original version on the other podcast, yeah. So I think you know how much we adore that song. And again, I think this just goes to them rebranding themselves, for lack of a better way of phrasing it. I think that was part of it. I don't think they needed to do that. I would have liked the original theme song.
So that's the problem I have with this whole season is they're rebranding. I'm darker. I'm more moody. I'm this and that. I'm like, ugh, whatever. Just bring the old stuff back.
It was definitely different and obvious, and to me it was jarring so I've seen most of the episodes twice now, and the first time through it probably wasn't until like the 6th show that I was able to listen to it without cringing. And by now I can appreciate it, that it's a decent rendition of it and it's interesting, but it's not what I wanted. I agree with you guys in that I wanted the old one, because that's just so iconic to me.
And I feel like that's going to be a common theme of our feelings about the season. That's not what I wanted.
It's not what I wanted, yes.
I don't know who wanted this. It's not exactly what I wanted.
Season 4, not what we wanted.
Yeah.
So we talked a little bit about our first impressions with that first episode, and that the themes here, we're not big lovers of the theme. What good parts can you pull out of season 4? What things and what themes, what instances did you enjoy or did you like seeing in this? Let's talk about some positives before we rip it apart.
So I love that Weevil is apparently a very big Mary Poppins fan, because I think there were 3 references in the period of 2 episodes back to back.
Did they throw in Practically Perfect?
Yes, and then there was like a spoonful of sugar, and there was one other one, and I just remember, he made like a Cherry Tree Lane, and I'm like, you are a big Mary Poppins fan. If you are bringing the street name into it, that's not a casual reference right there.
I also liked what they did with Logan as far as him maturing.
You did? Yay! This makes me so happy. I was very curious to see how you would feel about Logan. And
right.
Well, that's because I didn't like Bad Boy Logan. I never did, and so I'm like, oh, good. At least somebody matured in this relationship and became an adult. So I liked it. But he still was funny, too. That's the thing. It's not like they made him boring because he grew up. Because just like that scene that you mentioned.
He was
still snarky.
This was probably my favorite Logan. And, that says a lot, because we've seen Logan in a lot of different ways throughout the seasons in the movie and everything. And I really liked him. Which I guess made things all the much more depressing there at the end, but and what I liked about season, I did like that they were trying to be the same but different, and I think that's easier for me to say than for you two to say, because I came to the fandom a little bit later, and I definitely was not as I hadn't bought into it as deeply as you guys did. I love the show, I absolutely love it, but I feel like you guys, your feelings for this show are just a little bit deeper, stronger, longer. I'm not sure what the answer is, but there's a different feeling there. And so for me, I think I am the type of fan that is willing over time to start accepting some of the changes and can even, I won't say defend them, because I don't defend you, Rob Thomas. I'm not going to do that. But I can maybe understand what he was trying to do, where I think I can see how some fans, at least the fans I saw on Twitter, they were not having it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, they were
so mad. Overall, I think this season, it was not my favorite season. That still is going to be season 1. No, you just couldn't beat it. That was so great. But I did enjoy it. I did enjoy it enough to have watched it almost all the way through a second time. I want to talk about Keith, though. Keith Mars, Veronica's dad, had kind of this like side storyline going on the whole time through. And I know particularly for Theresa, Keith was like your precious.
Yes.
Like, don't mess with Keith. Right?
I was so panicked because before I was saying, I don't know if I could watch a Veronica Mars if Keith wasn't in it. And then if the season kept going on, I'm like, oh, did I just jinx him? It's like, should I not have said that? So I will admit that was the one spoiler I actively looked up. I needed to see what happened with Keith at the end. I tried to avoid everything else around it. I'm like, I just need to know, because if something is going to happen, because they've almost ended his story, I think, every season at some point. And I'm like, oh no, they're actually going to do it this time. But yeah, so I just needed, for my own sanity, to get through it, I needed to look up how that generally ended. And then have my sigh of relief.
See, your feelings for Keith were my feelings for Logan. I had to do that. I had to go and find the spoiler and know what was coming to me. I think I did that. I held out. I was pretty strong until episode 4. And then by then I was like, I just need to know, because I started seeing people getting mad on Twitter. And at that point I was like, all right, what are we mad about exactly? What happened? So, but in my case, I like spoilers anyway, but in my case, I think it also helped me. I still had like 4 hours to kind of absorb and prepare mentally for what was coming. So when the big bad happened, it wasn't, I mean, it was still awful, but I think it was my own self-preservation kicked in, and I didn't cry. I was just a little bit mad. I wasn't flipping tables, but I was pretty mad because it was not pretty. But Keith, so my issue with the whole Keith story was I was getting more and more mad at Veronica, but I think that's also part of Veronica's story and part of what we have to remember as this, from this very, very flawed character of Veronica Mars, is she is, for a PI, she's also very non-observant. How many times did she keep saying, I just told you that? Like, wouldn't you clue in if your parent keeps forgetting things or, acts different, acts weird, especially what we know these days with, dementia and with issues like that as our parents are aging. At least it's just something that I've been paying attention to. I don't know, maybe it's just me. It's always on my mind when I'm around my parents that I can tell that they're getting older and they're not having any issues, but they are getting older. And it's just little things that I'm noting, but I'm like, make a note of that because, in 5 years, in 10 years, things could change. And so I was a little annoyed that she wasn't paying attention to her dad, the person who she spends more time with even than Logan, because Logan's out of the country half the time, apparently.
Yeah, I didn't understand the point of it really, because they made a big deal out of it and then wrapped it up in a second. Like, oh no, it was just this. Oh, okay. Like that. Well, that's kind of how I feel what they did with the ending. Oh, let's just blow them up. Okay. So I just felt like it was very lazy writing this season, and that's what I didn't like.
I think that's fair. I don't disagree with that at all, especially in the Keith situation, because it was kind of it was very clunky and it was really weird how they were doing it. It was so obvious that something was going on with Keith, but like nobody around him was cluing in on that. That was,
well, I guess they alluded to the fact that Cliff knew, because Veronica finally goes to ask him at some point. He's like, I think you need to talk to your dad. So I think some of this was a timing issue with the number of episodes they had. They couldn't do whole exposition on everybody checking in on Keith or everybody's reactions to it. So I think they kind of alluded to Cliff. Cliff knew something was up.
But what was the point?
I think the point was to distract you over how the ending was going to turn out. I think it was to kind of send you in the wrong direction, thinking something was going to happen to Keith, whereas no, Keith is going to be fine. It's
well, I think I don't know that I wouldn't say that was a distraction because I think it was kind of getting obvious that something was going to happen to Logan.
Or maybe to keep you wondering who it was going to be. It could have been one of multiple people.
Or maybe just to connect Keith with that one dude. What's his name?
J.K. Simmons. I can remember his character name offhand.
I can't either. That's how great I thought his character was.
That's how much you liked him in the show. All right.
Yeah.
Point noted. So what did we think about this whole storyline? It was not my favorite. I really couldn't get super invested or care that much about the bombings, which was like the primary issue. So what does that say?
I wish they had. I'd actually thought it was really interesting, and I wish they would have, I guess, brought in the other. I know they kind of had the unsolved mysteries and all of these other bombings or these other, criminal acts happening, but they really didn't latch onto that until the second to last episode. And I wish they would have introduced that earlier or shown more light on that earlier.
Yeah.
Because that was also really interesting to me, not just like, let's solve the bombings, but it's like there's these other weird things that have happened over time. And I thought I kind of liked the general storyline, but I wish they would have played more on that, because that, to me, that there's somebody who is... I thought that side of it was more interesting than the bombings itself.
Well, and then the mafia guys from Mexico just come on in and start killing people.
I hated that. That was one of the worst parts to me, was the cartel storyline. Yeah. Because the one kid in like the second episode has nothing to do with anything, and his head is like, they behead him. His head is right there. So it's just that this one had more senseless killing that didn't need to be there whatsoever. No. And that was one of the I didn't care for the cartel stuff.
Yeah. No, I didn't either.
Agreed. I think they still could have brought them in for the Dick Sr. storyline. I think they could have had it in for for that, but I didn't like the killing along the way that they had a part in.
I just wish that they would have connected a lot more of the old characters into the storyline than bringing so many new characters into it.
Well, I will say on that note, I didn't get to this when we were talking about favorite parts earlier, but I did really appreciate that they brought in so many of the season 3 characters for cameos, like a lot of the Hearst students, because in the movie where they brought back so many people, since it was a high school reunion theme, it didn't make sense for them to do it then. So that was one of the things I really did like, was we did get a chance to check in on all of these characters who did play a big role in the original series and kind of see where they are.
Yeah, the whole Parker scene was kind of weird for me, but I still wondered what happened to Piz, but he only got a brief mention by Logan.
He did. And we don't know a lot about what happened with a lot of those characters from the previous episodes. But again, that might have been just the whole point, is we're moving past that. People, come for the ride. Please come for the ride.
No, I don't want to.
Well, there's Tanya's answer to my last question.
And tell me, how did Leo get into the FBI when he was like arrested for like messing with police evidence or kicked off the police force and stuff? And how did he manage to get in the FBI?
Well, not only that, you remember he was 20 when he was a sheriff's deputy or whatever. In other words, he hadn't even gone to college yet, and FBI requires college. So, I mean, not to say that he couldn't have, obviously, when he got kicked off the force, maybe he decided to get his acting gear and he went to school. I don't know. But yeah, that was kind of one of those, oh, Leo's an FBI agent. Well, that's new.
Yeah.
I have thoughts about that, but I'll wait for a minute until we get to a little later.
All right. So what about the Logan and Veronica relationship this go around? Do we feel it's still epic? Because Logan has that rant that he goes on talking about their love story and how they're epic and it's going to span years and continents, lives ruined, bloodshed, all those things. Well, okay, he wasn't wrong. But do we still feel that way about them? Are they still love for us in this season? What do you guys think about Logan and Veronica?
I mean, I've never been a fan of those two together. So for me, I just have never subscribed to that. So it didn't really make a huge difference to me at all. I mean, I appreciated Logan's efforts, like to keep the relationship going. But at one point I'm like, dude, why don't you just kick her to the curb? Because she wasn't doing, she's like, oh, he's leaving. Okay. Oh, what? He's coming back. Oh, what? And then it's just like, then I saw my life flash before my eyes and I only thought of Logan. I'm like, okay, this is dumb.
Well, and it's interesting because you talked about how, she didn't initially pick up on anything that was happening with Keith, and she was kind of not with Logan coming and going, not as present with that. And I think it speaks to, Veronica's kind of self-absorbed.
She's
and we've always
totally
known this.
self-absorbed.
We've always known this.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that both of those, said that's very true to her character, how she would react to all of those situations. So I think that it didn't bother me. I always feel like the guys that Veronica is with, they tend to deserve a little better because she is a little too into herself. Like same thing when she was with Leo. Like Leo deserved better at the time than what Veronica was doing. But
Piz deserved better.
Piz deserve better. Like I think that's they deserve better than what Veronica has given them. And I think that makes sense with what she has seen about people in relationships, as she has said, she couldn't commit to the proposal initially because she sees what happens to people in marriages. That's all she's known. So I think she always has that wall up. And I think that was evident within this season, even though you could tell they both had grown in the relationship. Things were good with them, as good as they could have been or have been, but she still just had that wall. And that's just something about her that I think it was good to show her going to see going into therapy at the very end. And maybe she will start to address some of that. It's unfortunate that what took to get to that point, but maybe she finally will, start to work on that side of herself that seems to get passed over so frequently.
And that was actually something that I appreciated in this season. The one big appreciation that I have is that they have Big Bad Logan, who, I mean, anybody could tell you from the life that he has lived and everything he's been through, if anybody needed therapy, it would be Logan Eccles. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's clear. And he finally seems to be embracing that idea that, there is somebody that can help me with this and that can talk me through this. And I just felt like the changes that they made in Logan appealed to me because it was this maturity, it was this growth, it was a change, and it was, fairly drastic. But at the same time, it also showed that it didn't change him. Like he was still him. He was still the same sarcastic guy. He still had that anger, lurking underneath him, but he was learning how to work with it, how to control it. Kind of like he says with the Hulk and the banner explanation when he's talking to Veronica about it. And it just made me like Logan so much more, and how they wrote him and how they have had him just make this huge transformation since, season 1 when he was just this Class A jerk. So I liked that part. And I also liked that message that's out there that therapy is okay, guys. I mean, go for it. If this big bad Navy SEAL guy can go to therapy and get in touch with his personal side of that, at the end, it looks like maybe Veronica's coming around to the fact that she could probably stand to use a few hours with the therapist herself. So that made me happy about that particular parts of the relationship. So here we go. Let's have it.
What are you talking about?
Here's your chance to unload. Dear Rob Thomas. Go for it.
Pleased to be friends. Not anymore.
There's the line. Yes. Because Rob, you broke us, man. You broke us. Tanya, what all did you hate? What all would you tell him that he should have done differently if you could? Because I'm sure he's listening to this. So go ahead.
I'm sure. I just don't understand why you build up something for so long and then take it away in 5 seconds. Like it just, I mean, I'm not even mad that he died. I think the way he died, just how quick of a wrap up it was, just how it was such a cheesy, predictable moment leading up to it. I mean, even my husband was like, they're going to blow him up. And I had already known because I looked at spoilers too. And I'm like, oh yeah, it's coming. But like, even he could tell it was coming. And so that's what I didn't like about it. It was just, I don't know. It was such a weak moment. There's so many things. It just frustrates me because you spend all these seasons developing this relationship and then it's just like, oh, we're going to get married an hour later. Just kidding. Oh, so stupid.
All right, Theresa, what about you?
I have 2 thoughts on this. My initial thought upon watching it was, after Logan goes out to the car and there's an explosion, I'm like, we didn't see a body. It skips ahead to a year later. They show nothing. And I know that I'm just, anytime, if you, any form of entertainment, if you do not see a body, that does not guarantee that person is dead. And I don't care if Rob Thomas has come around and said, no, he actually is. I'm like, you can say that now, but then in like a couple years, if you decide, realize, I made a mistake, like he could come back. Logan is very high up in the military, and it could have been planned on his end the same way that, Veronica puts the people that she cares about in danger by the nature of her job. That's the same for him. His family and the people he care about can be in danger by the nature of his job. And I'm still not fully convinced that they're not going to come around, 2 or 3 seasons later if they realize, they keep continuing the show and realize people aren't as into it. They still have the opportunity to bring him back and have that be the reason. My other side of this is I was not as upset as most people seem to be about Logan's death until I saw Rob Thomas's comments afterwards about why. And that he said that he thought that the show would get too boring if Veronica was happy and had her husband at home and he was just off doing his thing, unless they started having Logan do mysteries together with her, which would be too cheesy. And he said he wanted to take it away from the high school type environment and make it less of a soap opera type feel and just go straight mystery. And that kind of made me mad because yes, the mystery aspect of the show is great, but that's not necessarily the primary reason I watch. I watched because of Veronica's relationships with the people around her and how they balance out all these really heavy moments. And I'm glad that he's said, Keith will likely always be a part of it, even if it's just like a phone call here or there. She's doing something out in another town. But I don't know if I'm going to feel as strongly about the show if they are completely removing her from people like Logan, from Wallace, Mac, who was not in the season. If they're going to take her away from that because they feel like that drags her down, that's not how I feel. So once he started making those comments about it, that's where I was feeling more mad about the choice that he made.
Well, I don't think he's listening to people. I mean, I don't know if he's trying to maybe correct some of the mistakes he made in the first few seasons about why, viewership went down and why it eventually was canceled. But I think he forget, exactly what you said. People are watching this for the relationships, like the friendships and the other characters in it. I mean, I didn't feel any connection to any of the new characters where I cared one way or another if they stayed, if they went. Like, that was the worst part of this series for me. And it's not like I feel like they need to just bring all the old people back and make it like the old gang and do a series on that. I mean, I like the mystery aspect, but they still need those relationships to build up an audience to care about what's going on. Like, we're not just watching the show for mysteries. The mysteries aren't that good, Rob Thomas. You're not that good of a writer. So,
well, and even the one new relationship that she had with the bar owner, I can't think of
Nicole.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah,
like that was the one that was most interesting to me. She was an interesting character. She had an interesting personality, and I think that she and Veronica could have gone somewhere. Well, as Veronica does, she sabotages that, and I'm like, all right, so does that mean she's gone too?
Well, I think the introduction of Maddie, I see that being the continuing factor, and I feel like because of, she witnessed someone getting beheaded and then didn't say anything about that to anybody. So I think watching, if we see the progression of her character down the line, because there's clearly some dark stuff like that she's dealing with. And I do think that could be interesting. Like, that's the relationship I see continuing, and kind of how Veronica interacts with her, kind of mentors her down the line. I think there is a lot there. But
yeah, I almost feel like Rob Thomas is trying to have his cake and eat it too. So with Maddie being introduced, and with Veronica driving off into the sunset at the end to go solve all these mysteries elsewhere and get her finally out of Neptune, which I am not personally opposed Veronica leaving Neptune, because I think Neptune was a really bad place, Veronica, for her. And so maybe she does need a brand new shot. I mean, think about it. She was most grounded and normal when she was in New York, right, with Piz, and when she was like doing normal things. And so maybe it's not a bad thing for her as a person to leave, but I understand it's a character. But this Maddie girl is making me think like that we're going to see, if there's a season 5, assuming there is, that we're going to have 2 tracks, and we're going to have Veronica doing her thing, and then Maddie and Keith back in Neptune and high school issues. You know what I mean? I think we're going to get some of that high school again, possibly by way of Maddie instead of Veronica.
Yeah, I didn't like Maddie enough to really care.
Yeah. I don't know that I love
back or not.
Exactly. I don't know that I love it or that it has me excited. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I think that could be where they're going with this, and we'll have to see if we care. Right? We'll have to see if it turns out to be something that works or not. Which I'm up in the air too. I agree with Tanya. I didn't care enough about anybody in this season except for Veronica, Logan, and Keith.
Did either of you watch The Good Place?
To really care one way or the other.
Yes.
So that's why I liked Nicole, because she was from The Good Place.
Yes.
So they already had like a relationship and a chemistry going.
Right. Well, and I will say, since we did bring her up, this was my other big issue with the season, was Veronica using drugs and then going off and having target practice with a gun. Like, just her drug use in general, to me, that seemed so far out of character, because she's always been set up as somebody who likes to be in control at all times. And the few times that she was out of control were drug related, not by her choice. And so that to me, I was like, I was really shocked that happened. And then they have her shooting a gun shortly after. Like, I feel like Veronica's just a little smarter than that. Do not mix narcotics and weapons. Anybody listening, please don't do that.
Well, yeah,
but it just, that seems so out of character to me.
Yeah, because she's smarter than that. Even though she is, she definitely has her flaws. She does have that history with drugs and being drugged, and I just don't think it's something that she'd do. So I didn't like that part either.
That part didn't even blip on my radar. See, I think that's the difference again between you guys who are much more invested than me. I'm just like, now that you're saying that, I'm like, oh yeah, you're right. You are totally right. But at the time that I watched it, I did think, wait, they just did drugs and they're going to shoot guns. That's not smart. But I didn't get super spun up over it. But now that you two have said that,
because I think there was even a reference later, a few episodes later, about somebody drinking and then doing something. And I'm like, Veronica, I really don't think you can criticize somebody. Really, just a few minutes ago.
All right. So here's my question. Last question here. Are you still a marshmallow? Will you be down for a season 5? Should it come along?
Yes, I will. I will still watch. I'm not going to probably be as excited as I was for this one to come out, mostly because like I said, I don't feel as confident in the direction that Rob Thomas seems to want to go. And that's, he clearly knows these characters in theory better than any of us do. So I do trust that he kind of has a vision for it, but I feel like I have to give whatever this new vision is, I will give it a chance and then decide from there if I want to keep watching. I feel like it's going to be interesting to see, because I know part of it in determining if there's going to be another season is what the viewership was like for this season. But I think that's not a great indicator, because so many people probably would have tuned in to see, okay, what's going to happen, not have been thrilled with it. So I think I'll watch another season. I will give myself some time before rewatching season 4, and maybe it will change how I feel about it down the line, either in a good or a bad way. I'm willing to see what happens next, and then I'll reassess how I feel, and if I just want to pretend that the first 3 seasons in a movie are the only thing that exists in this world.
You're like, Hulu doesn't count.
The Hulu world does not count. What about you, Tanya?
I mean, I'll always be a marshmallow. I mean, just based on seasons 1 through 3 alone. Will I watch another season? Sure, I'll give another season a chance. But kind of like Theresa, I don't have a lot of confidence in where Rob Thomas wants this to go. But I mean, I guess it's his thing, so he can do what he wants. And I don't know if it was a mistake for them to release the whole season at once, like at Comic-Con or not, because I feel like there was such a big blow up on Twitter and social media about the death. Yeah, I don't know if some people decided not to watch, or if they're just going to wait it out, or, not as excited. And so I don't know if that was the best move or not. Because I think he even posted something about, let's not spoil it. Like, dude, what did you expect was going to happen? So yeah, we'll see. I mean, but same thing. I'm not as excited. Like, if he does a Kickstarter, I'm not giving you my money anymore, Rob Thomas.
Right. Although I disagree with the people who I did see some very specific comments about, oh, we gave you all this money to bring it back, and then this is what you did to us. I was like, we gave him the money to make the movie.
Yeah.
And the movie was pure fan service. Like, he delivered on that. You can't take as much ownership of what he does several years later to continue that world. I'm like, the people who are like, can I get my money back now? I'm like, no, you can't, because you got the product that you paid for. And then beyond that, you don't, it's not yours. It's not yours.
It's that Facebook meme. That's not how this works. That's not how any of this works.
That's not how, Oh my gosh, we did not talk about my favorite character, Vinny Van Lowe.
I was wondering, yes, because that actually was one of my favorite scenes. And
his Captain No Haircut.
The Avengers references. That was wonderful.
When I saw that, I started to text you, and then I was like, no, I gotta leave something for her. I gotta leave something for her. Yeah. Well, so what was that scene? Run through that scene again. That was hilarious.
What was going on? I know. He was talking to Keith, and
they were in the hotel room with I can't remember, senator or congressman. They were like with his family, and then it was just a back and forth of them giving everybody like Avengers themed names.
I don't know. Yeah. All I remember is him referring to Keith as Captain No Haircut, and then something about the Avengers, and I was laughing.
That's right. And Vinny Van Lowe, I would watch like a side series about him, because he's the one character I'm like, exactly what he's going to be and the type of person. Like, he's
so skeezy,
but in a charming way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I there was not enough Weevil, and there was definitely not enough Wallace. And
definitely not enough.
And I could have used some more Vinny, because I think we only saw him like once or twice. So I could have used some more Vinny.
Yeah, and I didn't want to see Vinny in like a strip club either. Like, I'm like,
but just because you've never seen him there before, he spends his share of time.
Oh, yeah, exactly. But I didn't need to see like the dancers in the background grinding up on whatever. I'm like, to get the point. Okay, thanks.
Like, look, guys, we already know Vinny's skeezy.
Yeah, I know, exactly.
Vinny Van Gogh. Yeah, well. All right, so I think that wraps it up, yes? We covered our feelings. Have we purged the demons from Veronica Mars season 4?
I'm still writing Rob Thomas.
I will say thank you for getting Clark Duke in it, because I think he's hilarious in everything that he does. And I had no idea he had been cast in this. And it took me a minute, because he had the long hair and he's only on like the video calls. So it took me a minute to watch, and I'm like, wait, I know who that is. I was really excited to see him. And I thought J.K. Simmons was great. So I think a lot of the guest actors that they had come in for this, that was really, really good casting.
I thought those were fun. I also liked Trey Crowder. I thought he was mildly amusing to me as a Tennessee bar owner when he starts his thing about all the stuff with Tennessee. I used to live in Tennessee, so maybe it made me laugh more than most people. But he was talking about the mural on the side of the wall with like Dolly Parton and Philip Fulmer on it. And I was just like, oh my gosh, you are so Tennessee. Right up below.
What'd you think of Patton Oswalt?
He's always Patton Oswalt.
Yeah, I think my favorite Patton Oswalt has been Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Patton Oswalt.
Yeah.
And so I keep hoping he'll live up to that. And I haven't got. Oh, I also really liked him though when he was on Parks and Rec. But
he tends to play a similar iteration of it. And for him, I mind that less than some other actors who do that, because like I said, he has a type and he's very good at what he does. Mm-hmm. I thought it was an interesting choice. Like I actually really liked him. I know not everybody agrees, but I thought he finally did have a chance to show towards the very end, like a really dark side that he never gets to portray. I feel like this is not going to be the last that we see of him if they do like additional seasons.
Which I'm assuming there'll at least be a season 5. That's my guess. Is that we'll get a season 5. I don't know if we'll get anything past that.
Right. But like I said, I don't think this is going to be the last that we see of him, just because of how they left it.
All right. Fair enough. Fair enough. All right. Well, I think that's probably a good place to end things here. If anybody listening has thoughts on season 4, tweet us, leave us a comment on noguiltfangirl.com, or join us in the No Guilt Fangirls Facebook group, and feel free to sound off in there. We'd love to have you. Don't forget to leave a review, hit those 5 stars. It helps other fangirls find us in the whole podcast system algorithm thing that they have going on. No one likes to fangirl alone. So, I'd appreciate it if you have a second to do that. Now, I'll be back on Monday with the Monday Movie Minute, or with a daily-ish episode later this week. You never know when I'm going to pop in and have something that I'm obsessing about, because it happens way more often than it should. So be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of those. And thanks for fangirling with us today. Thanks to my guests for being such passionate marshmallows. If it wasn't for you two, I wouldn't be here talking about our girl, and I still love her, even if she makes sketchy choices in life.
Hopefully now you don't blame us for that.
No. I'm still on board. I'm still overwhelmingly positive about the future. I didn't hate the season, but I didn't love it either. But it wasn't a waste of my time. I wouldn't have spent half a day sitting in front of the TV, ignoring everybody to watch it if I did. So I'm still on board. I'm still with it, but I fully understand. That's why I wanted to have this rehash, because I know how you guys feel about it, and I definitely know there were feelings that needed to come out about what they've done. All right, guys. Well, thanks, Tania. Thanks, Theresa.
Thanks for having me again.
Thank you.